Sarah Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead, squinting against the bright Oregon sun that bathed their backyard in golden afternoon light. It was one of those perfect late summer days, the kind where the sky stretched endlessly blue, where pine trees whispered secrets in the gentle breeze, and where nothing bad could possibly happen. "Mommy, look, the baby goes to sleep." 3-year-old Emma held up a tiny plastic doll, her blonde pigtails bouncing as she demonstrated how to tuck the toy into its miniature bed. The child's pink sundress, her favorite with the sparkly butterflies, glowed in the sunlight. Her feet were bare, toes wiggling in the warm grass. "That's beautiful, sweetie," Sarah smiled, her hands full of weeds she'd pulled from the garden bed. "You're such a good mommy to your bobbies." Emma beamed with pride, returning to her elaborate dollhouse setup on the patio. She had spent the last hour arranging furniture, creating stories, lost in that magical world only 3-year-olds can inhabit. Sarah watched her daughter for another moment, her heart swelling with that fierce, overwhelming love that motherhood brings. Then she remembered the juice boxes. She'd promised Emma a snack, and they were still in the refrigerator. "I'll be right back, baby girl. Mommy's getting your juice." "Okay, Mommy." Sarah walked toward the sliding glass door, glancing back one more time. Emma was sitting cross-legged, completely absorbed in her play. The backyard was fenced, safe. Their property bordered national forest land, but there was a good 40 feet between the patio and the tree line. Everything was fine. The kitchen was cool and dim after the bright sunshine. Sarah grabbed 2 juice boxes from the fridge, apple, Emma's favorite. She paused at the sink to wash her dirt-stained hands. Through the window, she could see the patio, could see the... Wait! Her hands froze under the running water. The dollhouse sat on the patio, furniture scattered across the concrete, but Emma wasn't there. Sarah's brain struggled to process what she was seeing, or rather what she wasn't seeing. A small pink dress, blonde pigtails, her daughter. "Emma," she called, turning off the water. Her voice sounded strange, tight. "Silence." "Emma, honey, where are you?" Sarah walked quickly back to the sliding door, stepped onto the patio. The dollhouse furniture lay abandoned mid-game. A tiny plastic table on its side, a miniature chair. Emma's sippy cup of water, still half full, sitting exactly where she'd left it. "Emma!" Sarah's heart began to hammer. She ran to the side of the house. Maybe Emma had gone to look at the flowers. Nothing. She ran to the other side. Maybe she was playing hide and seek. Nothing. "Emma, Emma, where are you?" Her voice was rising now, panic creeping in like ice water through her veins. She ran back to the patio, her eyes scanning wildly, and then she saw it. The gate. The gate that led to the forest trail. The gate they always kept latched. It was open. No, 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 no. Sarah sprinted across the yard, her bare feet pounding grass, then gravel, then pine needles. She reached the gate and stared into the forest beyond. The trees stretched endlessly, their trunks thick and close together, underbrush dense and impenetrable in places. Shadows pooled in the spaces between trees. The forest floor disappeared into darkness just 30 feet in. "Emma, baby, where are you, Emma?" Sarah plunged into the trees, branches scraping her arms, thorns catching her shorts. She ran blindly, screaming her daughter's name over and over until her throat was raw. "Emma, mommy's here, Emma." How long had she been inside? 2 minutes, 3. How far could a 3-year-old run in 3 minutes? Sarah's mind spun with calculations, with possibilities, with horrors. Emma was so small, so trusting. She would talk to anyone, follow anything interesting. A butterfly, a rabbit, a bird. The forest was vast, thousands of acres of wilderness. Ravines and creeks and cliffs, coyotes, bears, mountain lions. Sarah stumbled over a root and fell hard, her palms scraping against rough bark. She pushed herself up, gasping, and kept running, kept screaming. Her voice echoed back to her, mocking in its emptiness. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Sarah heard a different voice calling her name. "Sarah, Sarah, where are you?" "Tom, her husband." "I'm here in the forest. Emma's gone, Tom, she's gone." Sarah crashed back through the underbrush toward his voice. Tom stood at the gate, his face white with terror. He'd been in the garage, working on his truck, headphones in. He hadn't heard anything until he'd come inside for water and found the house empty. "What do you mean gone? What happened?" "I went inside for juice, just for 2 minutes. The gate was open and Tom, she's in the forest, we have to find her, we have to." Tom was already pulling out his phone, his fingers shaking so badly he could barely dial. Sarah ran back to the forest edge, screaming Emma's name until her voice cracked and failed. Behind her she heard Tom's voice, tight and terrified. 911, I need to report a missing child. 3 years old. She's wandered into the forest. We need help. Please, God, we need help now." The sun was still shining, the sky was still blue, the day was still perfect. But Sarah Martinez's world had just shattered into a million pieces. Emma was gone. And the forest had swallowed her whole. Deputy Jake Morrison's police radio crackled to life just as he was finishing his afternoon patrol route. "All units, we have a code Adam. 3-year-old female, missing from residential property at 4247 Pine Ridge Road. Last seen wearing pink dress, no shoes. Believed to have entered forest area. Requesting immediate K-9 response." Morrison's foot hit the accelerator before the dispatcher finished speaking. In the back of his specially equipped SUV, Max lifted his head, ears alert. The 4-year-old German Shepherd knew that tone, that urgency. Something was wrong. Someone needed them. "Dispatch, this is Morrison. En route with K-9 Max. ETA 8 minutes. 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, a small child could travel half a mile through dense forest, could fall into a ravine, could encounter wildlife, could become so disoriented that she'd never find her way back." Morrison had been a K-9 handler for 12 years. He'd worked dozens of missing person cases. Some ended in joyful reunions. Others ended in closed caskets and devastated families. He'd learned not to think about the statistics, that the first 3 hours were critical, that survival rates dropped exponentially after the first night, that children under 5 often hid from searchers, staying silent even when they heard their names called. He couldn't think about those things now. He had a job to do. The truck roared up the winding mountain road, sirens wailing. Behind him, Max stood in his secured compartment, balanced perfectly despite the sharp turns. The dog's dark eyes were focused, his body tense with anticipation. Max was third-generation search and rescue. His mother had found 17 people. His grandfather had found 32. Finding people wasn't just Max's job, it was encoded in his DNA. Morrison pulled into the driveway of 4247 Pine Ridge Road 7.5 minutes after receiving the call. The scene was controlled chaos. 2 patrol cars already on site. A woman, the mother he assumed, was being restrained by a female officer near the forest edge. She was screaming, fighting to break free, her face streaked with tears and dirt. A man, probably the father, stood with another officer, answering questions in a monotone voice while his hands shook violently. Morrison parked and immediately went to the back of his vehicle. He opened Max's compartment and the dog jumped down, nose already working, reading the air. Morrison clipped on Max's working harness, bright orange with search and rescue emblazoned across it. The moment that harness went on, Max transformed. His casual demeanor vanished, replaced by intense focus. "Deputy Morrison," the female officer approached. "Officer Chen, parents are Sarah and Tom Martinez. Daughter is Emma, 3 years old. Mother was inside for approximately 2 to 3 minutes. When she came back out, the child was gone. That gate," she pointed to an open gate leading to a trail, "leads directly into Cascade National Forest, thousands of acres of wilderness." Morrison nodded, his jaw tight. "How long has she been missing?" 27 minutes since the mother noticed she was gone. Could be up to 30 minutes total. 30 minutes. That was good, that was manageable. Morrison had found children after hours, even days. 30 minutes meant Emma couldn't have gone too far, unless she'd fallen, unless something had happened. He pushed those thoughts away. I need something with the child's scent. Unwashed clothing, a blanket, a stuffed animal, something she's been in contact with recently. Tom Martinez stumbled forward, clutching a small pink blanket. This is her blankie. She sleeps with it every night. She had it this morning. Morrison took the blanket carefully. Thank you, sir. What was Emma wearing? Pink sundress with butterflies. No shoes. Her hair is blonde in pigtails with purple elastics. Tom's voice broke. She's so small, she's just a baby. Mr. Martinez, I need you to listen to me. Morrison locked eyes with the father. Max is one of the best search and rescue dogs in the state. He's found children in worse conditions than this. We're going to find your daughter, but I need you and your wife to stay here. Search and rescue teams are on their way. They'll need you here for coordination. Sarah broke free from Officer Chen and ran to Morrison. Please, please find my baby. She's afraid of the dark. She doesn't know those woods, please. Ma'am, I promise you, Max and I won't stop until we find her. Morrison's voice was steady, confident. He'd made this promise before. He'd kept it before. He would keep it again. He turned to Max, kneeling down to the dog's level. He held the pink blanket to Max's nose, letting him inhale deeply. The dog's nostrils flared, memorizing every molecule, every trace of Emma's unique scent signature. Her shampoo, her skin, her 3-year-old essence. Max, find. Morrison's command was simple, clear. Max's head snapped toward the open gate. His body tensed, and then he lunged forward with such force that Morrison had to brace himself. The leash went taut. Max pulled hard, his nose to the ground, then to the air, then back to the ground. He was following something invisible to human senses, a trail of skin cells and sweat and the microscopic particles that every person sheds with every movement. They reached the gate and plunged into the forest. Behind them, Sarah's anguished cry echoed, "Find her, please God, find her." The forest closed around them like a living thing. Sunlight filtered weakly through the dense canopy. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. The sounds of the civilized world, cars, voices, sirens, faded within seconds, replaced by the whisper of wind through pine needles and the crunch of their footsteps on the forest floor. Max moved with absolute certainty, his tail straight out, his gait purposeful. Morrison followed, his trained eyes scanning the terrain for any sign, a footprint, a piece of fabric, disturbed vegetation. His radio was on, connected to the command center being established at the house. They had a trail, they had hope. But they also had a clock ticking. The sun would set in 90 minutes. And a 3-year-old girl in a pink dress was alone in the wilderness. The forest seemed to have no end. Morrison crashed through underbrush, his lungs burning, legs screaming in protest. Max pulled relentlessly forward, nose glued to an invisible trail only he could detect. They'd been moving for 45 minutes now, penetrating deeper and deeper into Cascade National Forest. The trees grew thicker here, their ancient trunks blocking out what little remained of the afternoon sun. Morrison's radio crackled. "Base to Morrison, what's your 20?" He checked his GPS unit, breathless. Approximately 1.2 miles northeast of the residence. Max has a solid trail. We're moving fast. Copy that. Be advised, temperature dropping. Current temp 62 degrees, expected low tonight 41 degrees. We have 12 volunteer search teams deploying. Helicopter requested but unable to penetrate canopy in your area. 41 degrees. Morrison's stomach clenched. Emma was wearing a thin sundress. No shoes, no jacket. A 3-year-old's body couldn't regulate temperature like an adult's. Hypothermia could set in within hours. Understood, we're not stopping. Max suddenly veered left, scrambling down a steep embankment. Morrison followed, half running, half sliding down the slope. Loose rocks scattered under his boots. He grabbed a tree trunk to steady himself, bark rough under his palm. At the bottom, a creek gurgled over smooth stones, maybe 15 feet wide. Max plunged directly into the water. No, 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 Morrison breathed. Water was a tracker's nightmare. It washed away scent, broke trails, created confusion. If Emma had crossed this creek, Max might lose her completely. But the German shepherd moved with confidence, water splashing around his legs. He reached the opposite bank and immediately put his nose down, circling, searching. Morrison held his breath. Come on, boy, find it. Find her. Max's tail went rigid. He had it. The trail continued. Morrison exhaled in relief, keying his radio. We've crossed a creek. Trail is still active. Subject definitely came this way. They pushed forward. The terrain grew more treacherous. Fallen logs thick with moss, thorny blackberry bushes that tore at Morrison's uniform, hidden holes that could break an ankle. How had a 3-year-old navigated this? Adrenaline, maybe. Fear. Children could move surprising distances when frightened. 15 minutes later, Max stopped abruptly. He circled a spot, whining, his tail dropped. Morrison's heart sank. That whine meant uncertainty, confusion. Then Max sat and looked up at Morrison, and the deputy's chest tightened with hope. The sit command, Max's signal that he'd found something. Morrison rushed forward, his flashlight beam sweeping the ground. There, caught on a low branch, was a small piece of pink fabric. He lifted it carefully, examining the torn material. Butterflies. It matched the description of Emma's dress. Good boy, Max. Good boy, Morrison praised, giving the dog a treat from his pouch. He radioed immediately. Base, I've got evidence. Piece of pink fabric matching subject's dress. She definitely came through this area. Copy, that's excellent news. What's Max's behavior? Morrison looked at his partner. Max was circling again, nose working overtime. But something was off. The dog seemed less certain now, moving in wider circles, checking and rechecking the same areas. He's having trouble. The trail might be weakening. It had been over 90 minutes since Emma disappeared. Scent trails degraded over time, especially in moving air. The evening breeze was picking up, stirring the trees, dispersing the molecules Max needed to track. Morrison made a decision. He pulled out Emma's blanket again, letting Max refresh his memory of her scent. Max, find Emma. The dog inhaled deeply, his intelligent eyes focused. Then his head snapped to the right, toward a dense thicket of ferns and fallen timber. He moved forward more slowly now, working carefully. Morrison followed, pushing aside vegetation. The forest was growing darker by the minute. Shadows pooled in every hollow, making it difficult to see more than 20 feet ahead. His radio crackled again. All units be advised. News crews are arriving on scene. Family is requesting updates. Morrison thought of Sarah Martinez, that mother's anguished face. What could he tell her? That they'd found a piece of fabric. That her daughter had run 1.5 miles into wilderness. That the trail was weakening and darkness was coming and the temperature was dropping. Tell them we're making progress, he said simply. We won't stop searching. They pressed deeper. The forest floor rose sharply, climbing toward a ridge. Max struggled up the slope, his paws scrambling for purchase. Morrison hauled himself up using tree roots and exposed rocks. At the top, the land leveled out and the forest changed character. Massive old-growth trees here, their trunks wider than cars. The canopy above was so thick that twilight had already arrived beneath it. Max's pace had slowed. He was still following something, but his earlier confidence had dimmed. Morrison felt the first tendrils of real fear. What if they were wrong? What if Emma had gone a different direction at the creek? What if she doubled back? Children did unpredictable things when lost. They followed animal trails, chased butterflies, wandered in circles. Come on, baby girl, Morrison whispered to the darkness. Where are you? Call out, make a sound, help us find you. but the forest remained silent except for the wind. They'd been searching for 2 hours now. Morrison's legs trembled with fatigue. Max, despite his training and endurance, was panting hard. The dog paused at a cluster of boulders, drinking from a small pool of rainwater collected in a rock depression. Morrison checked his GPS again. They were 2.3 miles from the house now. Behind them, the forest stretched like an ocean they'd crossed. Ahead, it continued endlessly. Emma could be anywhere in this vast wilderness. She could have turned at any point. She could be curled up under a log, silent and terrified. She could have fallen. She could be. Max's head jerked up suddenly. His ears shot forward, rotating like radar dishes. Every muscle in the dog's body tensed. He'd heard something. Something human ears couldn't detect. Morrison froze, barely breathing. "What is it, boy? What do you hear?" Max stared into the darkness ahead, utterly still except for his quivering nostrils. Then, without warning, he exploded forward with renewed energy, nearly yanking Morrison off his feet. The dog had found something. Or someone. Morrison ran, his heart hammering, crashing through the forest, his flashlight beam bouncing wildly. Max was pulling harder than ever, driven by something primal and urgent. Ahead, the trees opened into a small clearing. A massive fallen log dominated the space, its root ball torn from the earth decades ago. Max ran straight to it and stopped. He sat. The signal. Morrison's hands shook as he aimed his flashlight at the space beneath the log. And there, in the narrow hollow between the log and the earth, was a small figure in pink. Morrison's flashlight beam cut through the darkness beneath the fallen log, and time stopped. Pink fabric, blonde hair, a small body curled impossibly tight, wedged into the narrow space like a wounded animal seeking shelter. "Emma," Morrison dropped to his knees, his radio clattering to the ground. His hands shook as he reached into the hollow. "Emma, sweetheart, can you hear me?" Nothing, no movement, no sound. His fingers found her arm, ice cold. Her skin felt like marble, smooth, hard, lifeless. Terror gripped Morrison's throat. He pulled her carefully from beneath the log, cradling her tiny body. She was so light, like holding air. Her pink dress was torn and filthy, covered in mud and pine needles. Her feet were bleeding, torn by rocks and thorns. But worse, so much worse, was the blue tinge to her lips, the gray pallor of her skin. "No, no, no, baby, stay with me." Morrison's training kicked in, overriding his panic. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. For an eternal second he felt nothing. Then there, faint, thready, but present. She was alive. Base, Morrison grabbed his radio, his voice cracking. "I've got her. I found Emma, location." He checked his GPS with shaking hands. 2.4 miles northeast of Origin Point. "She's alive but unresponsive, hypothermic. I need immediate medical support." The radio exploded with voices. "Copy that, Morrison. Medical team en route to your location. What's her condition?" Morrison ripped off his jacket, wrapping it around Emma's small frame. It swallowed her completely. He held her against his chest, trying to share his body heat. "Pulse is weak and slow, breathing shallow. She's ice cold, unresponsive to verbal stimuli. Suspected moderate to severe hypothermia. She's been out here for over 2 hours in 40-degree temps with minimal clothing." "Understood, keep her warm. Do not rub her extremities. Paramedics are moving to your coordinates now. ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes. 20 minutes for medical help to reach them through 2.4 miles of dense forest in near-total darkness. Every second counted. Morrison knew the statistics on hypothermia in children. Emma's core temperature was dangerously low. Her organs were slowing down, her blood thickening. If she'd been out here much longer. He couldn't think about that. Max pressed against Morrison's side, whining softly. The dog's warm breath fogged in the cold air. He nudged Emma's hand with his nose, gentle, concerned. Morrison had seen Max find missing persons before, but he'd never seen the dog show this kind of emotional response. Max knew. Somehow, he knew this was a child, that she was in danger, that she needed help. "You did it, boy," Morrison whispered, his voice thick. "You saved her, you found her." Emma's eyelids fluttered. Morrison's heart leaped. "Emma, Emma, can you hear me? You're safe now, sweetheart, you're safe." Her eyes opened, just slits at first, unfocused and glassy. She stared up at Morrison's face without recognition, without understanding. Her lips moved, trying to form words, but no sound came out. Her body began to shiver violently, a good sign. Shivering meant her body was still trying to warm itself. "That's it, baby girl, that's good. Keep fighting." Morrison adjusted the jacket around her, tucking it tighter. He activated the warming packets from his emergency kit, placing them carefully against her torso, away from direct skin contact. Too much heat too fast could be dangerous. Emma's eyes wandered, unfocused, confused. She was disoriented, probably terrified. Morrison had no idea how much she understood about what was happening. Had she been awake this whole time, alone in the dark? Or had she lost consciousness? How long had she been under that log? "You're okay now," he kept saying, a mantra, a prayer. "You're safe. We're going to get you home to Mommy and Daddy." At the word Mommy, something changed in Emma's eyes. Recognition, understanding. Her cracked lips moved again. This time a sound emerged, so faint Morrison almost missed it. Mommy." "Yes, yes, we're taking you to Mommy." Morrison felt hot tears streaming down his face. He didn't bother wiping them away. "She's waiting for you, sweetheart, Daddy too. They love you so much." Max moved closer, his large head near Emma's face. The dog's ears were back, his expression soft, concerned. He licked Emma's tiny hand where it had slipped from beneath the jacket, one gentle swipe of his warm tongue. Emma's eyes shifted. She saw Max, really saw him. For the first time since Morrison had pulled her from that hollow, Emma's face changed. The blank, glassy stare softened. Her blue lips tried to form a smile. Her small hand, dirt-crusted, bleeding, trembling, moved slightly, fingers extending toward Max's fur. And then she spoke, 2 words, barely a whisper, hoarse and broken, but clear. "Good dog." Morrison choked on a sob. Those 2 simple words contained everything: consciousness, awareness, recognition. She was in there. Emma was still in there, fighting, aware. She wasn't just alive, she was present. "Yes, baby. Yes, he's a very good dog, the best dog. He found you. Max found you." "Good dog," Emma repeated, her fingers now touching Max's fur, tangling weakly in the thick coat. The dog remained perfectly still, letting her hold on, providing warmth and comfort. Morrison's radio crackled. "Morrison, paramedics are 1 mile out. Can you meet them?" Morrison looked at Emma, at this tiny, broken, freezing child clinging to his K9 partner. Could she survive being moved? Could she survive staying still? "Negative, she's too weak. We stay here, but tell them to hurry, tell them to hurry." He pulled Emma tighter against his chest. Max pressed against her other side, creating a cocoon of warmth. The dog's steady breathing, the rise and fall of his chest, seemed to calm Emma. Her shivering continued, violent, whole-body tremors, but her eyes stayed open now, fixed on Max. "Good dog," she whispered again, and this time it sounded stronger. Morrison rocked her gently like he'd rocked his own daughter years ago when she was small. "That's right, sweetheart. Good dog, best dog in the whole world, and you're a good girl, such a brave, strong girl. Stay with us. Stay awake. Keep talking to Max. He loves you. He found you because he loves you." In the distance, Morrison heard crashing through underbrush. Voices, lights. The medical team was coming. But in this moment, in this small clearing in the vast darkness, it was just Morrison, Max, and Emma. A deputy. A dog, and a tiny girl who just spoken 2 words that meant everything. 2 words that signaled life. 2 words that changed everything. "Good dog." The The forest came alive with voices and flashlight beams. Morrison stayed on the ground, Emma clutched against his chest, Max pressed protectively against her side. The cavalry had arrived. "Over here, we're here," Morrison shouted, his voice raw. 3 paramedics burst into the clearing, laden with equipment. The lead medic, a woman named Rachel Chen, dropped to her knees beside them. "How long has she been conscious?" "Maybe 3 minutes. She's verbal but weak. Core temp is dangerously low." Rachel's practiced hands immediately went to work, checking Emma's vitals while her partners unpacked thermal blankets and warming equipment. "Emma, sweetie, I'm Rachel. We're going to help you feel better, okay?" Emma's eyes, still glassy and unfocused, turned toward the new voice, but her small hand remained tangled in Max's fur, refusing to let go. "Heart rate 60 beats per minute," Rachel called out. "Respiratory rate shallow at 14, pupils responsive but sluggish. She's hypothermic, probably stage 2. She looked at Morrison. "You saved her life. Another hour and we'd be—" She stopped, glancing at Emma, not finishing that sentence. "Blood pressure 70/40, another paramedic announced, pulling the cuff from Emma's tiny arm. Rachel worked quickly, inserting an IV line into Emma's hand. The little girl whimpered, the first real sound of distress she'd made. Her grip on Max's fur tightened. "Good dog," Emma whispered again, tears now streaming down her dirty cheeks. "Don't go." Morrison felt his own tears return. "Max isn't going anywhere, sweetheart. He's staying right here with you." Rachel wrapped Emma in specialized thermal blankets, silver, crinkly material designed to trap body heat. "We need to get her to the hospital immediately. Her core temperature is approximately 93 degrees. We need controlled rewarming, heated IV fluids, cardiac monitoring." "Where good dog go?" Emma's voice was clearer now, panicked. Her eyes darted between the paramedics, searching for Max. "He's right here, baby. Right here." Morrison gestured, and Max pushed his nose against the opening in the thermal blankets. Emma's small hand emerged, touching his muzzle. "Good dog, stay." Morrison looked at Rachel. The paramedic nodded. "If it keeps her calm, the dog can walk with us." They lifted Emma onto a specialized rescue stretcher, securing her carefully. Morrison stood, his legs nearly buckling after kneeling for so long. His radio was already buzzing with activity. Word had spread. They'd found her. She was alive. "Base, this is Morrison. We're transporting now. Alert the family. Tell them," his voice caught, "tell them their daughter is coming home." The response was immediate, emotional. Through the static, Morrison could hear cheering, crying, someone praying. And then a woman's voice, raw with desperate hope. "Is she okay? Please, is my baby okay?" "Sarah Martinez." Morrison keyed his radio. "Mrs. Martinez, Emma is stable. She's cold and scared, but she's talking. She's going to be okay. We're bringing her to you." The sound that came through the radio was primal. A mother's sob of relief, so powerful it needed no words. The journey back took 35 minutes. The rescue team moved as quickly as safely possible, navigating the treacherous terrain by flashlight. Emma drifted in and out of consciousness, but each time her eyes opened, she searched for Max. The German shepherd walked beside the stretcher, close enough for Emma to see him, to touch him, to know he was there. Morrison stayed near Emma's head, talking to her constantly. "You're so brave, Emma, do you know that? You're the bravest girl I've ever met. Max thinks so too, he told me." "Max talk," Emma's whisper held a hint of wonder. "Dogs talk in their own way. And Max said you're his favorite person in the whole world." A tiny smile flickered across Emma's blue lips. "I like Max." "Max likes you too, sweetheart." As they descended the final ridge, Morrison could see lights below, dozens of them. Emergency vehicles, news crews, volunteers. What looked like half the county had gathered. The moment the rescue team emerged from the forest, a roar went up, cheers, applause, crying. But Morrison only saw 2 people. Sarah and Tom Martinez stood at the forest edge, held back by police officers. The moment Sarah saw the stretcher, saw the small bundle wrapped in silver, her legs gave out. Tom caught her, and together they broke free from the officers, running forward. "Emma, Emma." "Mommy," Emma's voice was stronger now, urgent. "Mommy." The paramedics stopped, letting the parents approach. Sarah fell to her knees beside the stretcher, her hands hovering over her daughter's face, afraid to touch, afraid she might break her. "My baby, oh my God, my baby." Sarah's whole body shook with sobs. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Mommy's here now. Mommy's got you." "Mommy, I found good dog." Emma's words were slurred but determined. "He find me." Tom pressed his face against Emma's cheek, tears streaming. You're okay, princess. We love you so much." "We need to transport," Rachel said gently but firmly. "She needs hospital care immediately." Sarah looked up, panicked. "I'm coming with her. I'm not leaving her." "Of course, you can ride in the ambulance." As they lifted the stretcher toward the waiting ambulance, Emma's hand emerged from the blankets again, reaching back. "Where Max? Want Max?" Morrison bent down. "Max has to stay here, sweetheart, but he'll come visit you, I promise." "No, good dog, come." Emma was agitated now, trying to sit up, and that wasn't good for her condition. Sarah looked at Morrison with desperate, grateful eyes. "Please, whatever she needs, please." Morrison made a decision. "Max, load up." The German Shepherd jumped into the ambulance without hesitation, settling on the floor beside Emma's stretcher. Emma's hand immediately found his fur again. "Good dog, stay," she whispered, finally calm. "Good dog stays," Morrison confirmed. As the ambulance doors closed, Morrison stood in the flashing lights, covered in mud and scratches, exhausted beyond measure. Officer Chen approached, her eyes red. "That was incredible, Jake. You and Max, that was a miracle." Morrison shook his head, watching the ambulance pull away, sirens wailing. "Not a miracle, just a good dog doing what good dogs do." But he knew better. Those two words Emma had whispered, good dog, they'd meant more than praise for a pet. They'd meant consciousness, recognition, life. They'd meant that despite the cold, despite the fear, despite being alone in the darkness, that little girl had held on. She'd held on until Max found her. And in that moment, everything changed. For Emma, for her family, for Morrison. And for one very good dog who'd done his job perfectly. The ambulance screamed through the night, its siren cutting through the mountain silence like a prayer. Inside, Sarah Martinez sat frozen, gripping Emma's small hand while Rachel worked methodically, monitoring vitals, adjusting IV flow, watching the cardiac monitor with hawk-like intensity. Emma's eyes kept closing, then jerking open with panic. Each time her gaze searched until she found Max, lying on the ambulance floor, his brown eyes never leaving her face. "Stay awake, Emma," Rachel urged gently. "Talk to me, sweetie. Tell me about your dog." "Not my dog," Emma whispered, her words slurred. "Max, he find me in scary place." Sarah's grip tightened, fresh tears spilling. "Yes, baby, Max found you. He's a hero." "A hero too?" Emma's question was so innocent, so achingly childlike, that everyone in the ambulance felt their hearts break and mend simultaneously. "You're the biggest hero of all," Sarah choked out. "You're my brave, strong girl." Tom sat on the opposite side, his hand on Emma's leg through the thermal blanket. He hadn't spoken since they'd loaded into the ambulance. Couldn't speak. Every time he tried, sobs caught in his throat. His little girl, his princess, had been alone in the dark, cold, terrified, lost. The guilt was crushing. How had he not heard her leave? How had he been in the garage, oblivious, while his daughter wandered into wilderness? "Core temperature is rising," Rachel announced, checking the digital thermometer. 94.3. "That's good, Emma, you're warming up." But Emma's shivering had intensified, violent, whole-body tremors that shook the stretcher. Her teeth chattered so hard Sarah feared they might crack. Is that normal, the shaking? Tom finally found his voice. Completely normal. It's her body's way of generating heat. Actually, it's a very positive sign. Rachel adjusted another warmed IV bag. What concerns me more is potential injuries we can't see yet. Falls, internal trauma, we won't know until we get full scans. The ambulance hit a pothole, jostling everyone. Max shifted, maintaining his balance while staying close to Emma. The dog hadn't moved more than necessary since loading in. He seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, the fragility of this small human he'd found. "How far to the hospital?" Sarah asked. 8 minutes. Mercy General is prepped and waiting. Pediatric hypothermia team is standing by. Sarah looked down at Emma, at her daughter's dirt-smudged face, the scratches across her cheeks, the leaves still tangled in her blonde hair. She looked like she'd been through war. In a way, she had. A war against nature, against odds, against death itself. "Baby, what happened? How did you get into the forest?" Emma's eyes struggled to focus. I see butterfly, pretty butterfly, pink and orange, follow butterfly." Her words came slowly, separated by shivering breaths. "Butterfly go in trees, I follow, then butterfly gone, and home gone too." Sarah's heart shattered. A butterfly. Her daughter had almost died chasing a butterfly. "Were you scared, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, tears leaking from her eyes. "So scared, Mommy, I call you not come, get dark. Cold, I hide under big tree. Then," her face brightened slightly, "then Max come, Max find me." She reached her hand toward the dog again. Max lifted his head, letting her fingers touch his nose. "Best dog in whole world." The ambulance pulled into Mercy General's emergency bay, and chaos erupted. The doors flew open, revealing a trauma team of 8 people. Emma was transferred to a hospital gurney in seconds, Sarah and Tom running alongside as they rushed through automatic doors. 3-year-old female, hypothermia exposure for approximately 2.5 hours, Rachel rapid-fired information. Core temp currently 94.6 and rising. Alert and verbal but disoriented. Moderate to severe hypothermia. Multiple lacerations on feet and hands. Possible internal injuries from falls. They burst through double doors into a trauma bay. Bright lights, medical equipment, nurses moving with practiced precision. Emma's eyes went wide with fear. "Mommy, don't leave." "I'm right here, baby. Mommy's not going anywhere." Sarah tried to stay close, but a nurse gently pulled her back. "We need room to work, ma'am. You can stay, but please step back." Sarah and Tom pressed against the wall, hands clasped, watching as the team descended on their daughter. Scissors cut away the pink sundress, now just rags, electrode pads placed on her chest, blood pressure cuff, oxygen mask, thermometer. A doctor, young, female, competent, examined Emma's pupils with a light. "Pupils equal and reactive. That's excellent. Emma, can you tell me your name?" "Emma Martinez." Each word was an effort. "Good girl, how old are you?" Emma held up 3 fingers, shaking violently. "Perfect. Do you know your mommy's name?" "Sarah and Daddy Tom." Despite everything, Emma was coherent, aware. "Outstanding. You're doing so well, Emma." The doctor turned to her team. "Core temp 95.1. Cardiac rhythm stable. No signs of frostbite. Get me warm saline, heated blankets, and I want a full-body CT to rule out internal injuries." Max had followed the gurney inside, something that would never normally be allowed. But a nurse had seen Emma's panic and made an executive decision. Now the German Shepherd sat near the door, watching, waiting. Emma turned her head, searching through the sea of medical personnel. "Where Max?" "I'm sorry, sweetie, the doggy can't be in here," a nurse said kindly. "No, Max stay. He saved me, he stay." Emma's heart rate spiked on the monitor, beeping frantically. The doctor looked at the nurse, then at the dog, then back at Emma. She sighed. "Bring the dog closer. If it keeps her calm, I'll allow it." Max walked forward until he was beside the gurney. Emma's small hand found his head, and immediately her heart rate settled. "Good dog," she whispered. "Thank you for finding me." Sarah covered her face, sobbing. Tom wrapped his arms around her, and together they watched their daughter, alive, warm, safe, hold onto the dog who'd saved her life. Outside the trauma bay, Morrison stood with Officer Chen, watching through the window. "She's going to be okay," Chen said softly. Morrison nodded, unable to speak. In 12 years of search and rescue, he'd seen many outcomes. This was the one that made everything worth it. This was why they did it. For moments like this. For 2 words that meant everything. "Good dog." Sun rose over Mercy General Hospital, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Sarah Martinez hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. She sat in a chair pulled as close as possible to Emma's hospital bed, watching her daughter's chest rise and fall, counting each breath like precious jewels. Emma slept deeply now, finally. The violent shivering had stopped 2 hours ago. Her lips were no longer blue but a healthy pink. Color had returned to her cheeks. The monitors surrounding her bed beeped steadily, heart rate normal, oxygen saturation perfect, body temperature a beautiful 98.6 degrees. Dr. Catherine Wells had delivered the news at 3 a.m., and Sarah had collapsed with relief right there in the ICU hallway. "She's going to make a complete recovery," Dr. Wells had said, her eyes kind behind her glasses. "No frostbite, no internal injuries. The CT scans are clear. Her kidneys are functioning normally. Hypothermia can cause kidney failure, but Emma's showing no signs. It's remarkable, really. Another hour in those conditions." She'd paused, letting the unspoken truth hang in the air. Emma would have died. But she hadn't. Because of Max, because of Deputy Morrison, because of a miracle that Sarah would spend the rest of her life being grateful for. Tom dozed in the recliner, his hand still resting on Emma's leg even in sleep. He'd finally broken down around midnight, great heaving sobs that shook his whole body. The guilt, the fear, the relief, it had all poured out at once. Sarah had held him, both of them clinging to each other beside their sleeping daughter. A soft knock on the door made Sarah turn. A nurse peeked in. "Mrs. Martinez, there are some people here to see Emma, Deputy Morrison and Max." Sarah's face brightened. "Please send them in." Morrison entered quietly, wearing a fresh uniform, his hair still damp from a shower. Max walked beside him, freshly brushed, his working harness replaced with a simple collar. The dog's ears immediately perked forward when he saw the hospital bed. "How is she?" Morrison whispered. "Perfect, she's perfect." Sarah stood, crossing to Morrison, and before he could react, she threw her arms around him. Thank you for bringing my baby home. I don't have words. I'll never have enough words." Morrison hugged her back awkwardly, his own eyes misting. "Just doing my job, ma'am." "No," Sarah pulled back, looking him in the eye. "You saved her life. You and Max, your family now, forever. Do you understand? You're Emma's family." Max whined softly, his attention fixed on the bed. Sarah smiled through her tears. "Go ahead, Max, go see her." The German shepherd approached slowly, carefully, as if he understood the sanctity of this space. He stopped beside the bed, his nose just inches from Emma's sleeping face. His tail wagged gently. Emma's eyes fluttered open. For a moment she looked confused, disoriented. Then she saw Max, and her entire face transformed with joy. "Max," her voice was hoarse but strong, "you come back." "SHH, baby, not too loud," Sarah soothed, but she was smiling. Emma tried to sit up and Sarah helped her, adjusting the bed. The little girl immediately reached for Max, her small hands burying in his fur. "I miss you, good dog. I miss you so much." Max's tail wagged harder, and he licked Emma's hand gently. Morrison approached the bed, kneeling down to Emma's level. "Hi, Emma, do you remember me?" Emma studied his face carefully, then she nodded. "You carry me, you save me with Max." That's right, Max and I are partners. We look for people who get lost. I was very lost, Emma said seriously. So scared, so cold. But then Max come and I not scared anymore. Tom had woken up, watching the scene with wonder. Emma, honey, what do you say to Deputy Morrison and Max? Emma looked at Morrison with her wide, innocent eyes. Thank you for finding me. You a hero. Max a hero too. Then she leaned forward conspiratorially. But Max more hero because he's a dog and dogs are the best. Morrison laughed, a genuine full laugh. You know what? You're absolutely right. Max is way more heroic than me. A commotion in the hallway drew their attention. The nurse appeared again, looking flustered. I'm sorry, but there are news crews outside. They're requesting interviews. The story has gone national. Sarah and Tom exchanged glances. National. Morrison nodded. The local news picked it up last night. By this morning it was everywhere. Miracle Rescue, they're calling it. Police dog saves missing toddler. It's all over social media. People want to hear the story. Tom ran a hand through his hair. We're not ready for that. We just want to be with our daughter. I understand, but maybe, Morrison hesitated, maybe it could help. Raise awareness about K-9 search and rescue units. Most departments are underfunded. If this story could help other K-9 teams, help them save other kids. Sarah looked at Emma, who was now lying back against her pillows, her hands still tangled in Max's fur. What do you think, baby? Would you want to tell people about Max, about how brave he is? Emma's eyes lit up. Everyone should know about Max. He's the best dog in the whole world. And so, 3 hours later, with Dr. Wells' permission, a carefully controlled press conference took place in Emma's hospital room. Cameras were limited. Questions were screened. Emma sat propped up in bed, looking tiny but resilient, with Max lying on the floor beside her. A reporter from CNN leaned forward. Emma, what do you remember about being lost? Emma's face grew serious. It was very dark and scary. I cry for mommy, but mommy not come. Then I hear something, Max. He find me under the big tree. He lick my hand. I say. She paused dramatically, making sure everyone was listening. Good dog. The room erupted in gentle laughter. Another reporter asked, what do you want people to know about Max? Emma didn't hesitate. Max is hero. He saved kids. All dogs who find people are heroes. We should give them lots of treats and toys and love. She looked directly at the camera with the seriousness only a 3-year-old could muster. If you have money, give it to the police dogs. They need it to save more kids like me. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Her 3-year-old daughter was advocating for K-9 units. The clip went viral within hours. By evening, it had been viewed 15 million times. #GoodDog was trending worldwide, and donations started pouring into K-9 units across the country, tens of thousands of dollars, then hundreds of thousands. All because of 2 words. All because of a tiny girl and a very good dog. 6 months had passed since that terrifying September evening when Emma Martinez vanished into the forest. Now, on a bright March morning, the community center gymnasium overflowed with children, parents, and media crews. Today was special. Today was the official launch of the Good Dog Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to funding K-9 search and rescue units across the Pacific Northwest. And today was Emma's 4th birthday. She stood on a small platform wearing a purple dress covered in, what else? Dogs. Her blonde hair was longer now, pulled into a neat braid. The scratches on her face had healed without scars. The physical wounds had vanished completely, but more remarkably, so had the psychological ones. Dr. Wells had warned Sarah and Tom about potential trauma, nightmares, separation anxiety, fear of the outdoors, but Emma showed none of it. In fact, she seemed more confident, more fearless than before. She told her story proudly, never with tears or fear, always with wonder at the good dog who found her. Child psychologists had called it remarkable. Sarah called it a miracle. Tom simply called it Emma. "Are you ready, Princess?" Tom whispered, kneeling beside his daughter. Emma nodded enthusiastically, clutching a microphone that was far too big for her small hands. "Is Max here?" "He wouldn't miss your birthday for anything." The gymnasium doors opened, and Deputy Jake Morrison entered with Max at his side. But they weren't alone. Behind them walked 12 other K9 handlers with their dogs, German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, Labrador Retrievers, even a Border Collie. All search and rescue certified, all heroes in their own right. The moment Emma saw Max, she squealed with delight. "Max!" The German Shepherd's tail started wagging before Morrison even released him from his lead. Max trotted across the gym floor, and Emma jumped off the platform, running to meet him. They collided in a joyful reunion, Emma wrapping her arms around Max's neck, the dog's tail whipping back and forth like a propeller. "I miss you, good dog. I miss you so much." Morrison smiled, watching them. Over the past 6 months, he and Max had visited Emma twice a week, sometimes at her house, sometimes at the park, sometimes just for ice cream at the local shop. An unbreakable bond had formed, not just between girl and dog, but between two families. Morrison had dinner at the Martinez home every Sunday now. Max had become Emma's unofficial guardian, her protector, her best friend. The crowd settled as Sarah took the microphone. She stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of faces. News crews from major networks positioned in the back. But she focused on the families in front, people whose lives had been touched by K9 search and rescue, people who understood. "6 months ago," Sarah began, her voice steady but emotional, "my daughter wandered into the forest. For over 2 hours we didn't know if we'd ever see her again. Every parent's nightmare became our reality. But then Deputy Morrison and Max," she paused, looking at them, "they brought our baby home." The audience applauded, but Sarah held up her hand. What happened next shocked us. Emma's story went viral. The video of her calling Max a hero was viewed by millions. People saw something special in that moment, the bond between a lost child and the dog who saved her, and people wanted to help. Sarah's voice grew stronger. "In 6 months, we've raised over $847,000 for K9 search and rescue units. That money has funded 12 new K9 teams across Oregon and Washington. It's provided equipment, training, and support for handlers who work tirelessly, often as volunteers, to save lives. Every single donation came because people heard Emma's story, because they heard her say 2 simple words, 'Good dog.'" The applause was thunderous now. Emma beamed, her hand still buried in Max's fur. Tom took over the microphone. "But today isn't just about celebrating what we've accomplished. It's about ensuring this work continues. The Good Dog Foundation will provide ongoing support for K9 units, because every child deserves what Emma got, a second chance. Every family deserves what we got, hope." Morrison was called to the stage next. He approached reluctantly, never comfortable with attention, but Emma grabbed his hand and pulled him forward. Max followed, as always. "I'm not good at speeches," Morrison admitted, his voice gruff. "I'm a cop. I do my job. Max does his job. That's what we're trained for." He looked down at Emma, who smiled up at him with absolute adoration. "But this little girl taught me something. She taught me that our work matters, that what we do, what Max does, changes lives. Not just the person we find, but their families, their communities, everyone they'll touch for the rest of their lives." He bent down, picking Emma up. She wrapped her arms around his neck. "Emma calls me Uncle Jake now, and honestly, that title means more than any medal ever could, because she's right. We're family. All of us who do this work, we're family. And this foundation, it's going to help our family save more kids, more Emmas." Emma took the microphone, her high-pitched voice echoing through the gymnasium. "Hi, everybody. I'm Emma and I'm 4 years old today." The crowd laughed. "I want to say thank you for helping the police dogs. They are very good dogs who work very hard. Max is the goodest dog ever, but all the dogs here are heroes." She looked at the other K9s lined up behind her. If you get lost, don't be scared. A good dog will find you. They always find you. That's what they do. That's why we love them. The simplicity of her words, the pure truth in them, left many in the audience wiping their eyes. The ceremony concluded with a demonstration. Each K-9 team performed their skills, tracking, area searches, evidence recovery. The children in the audience watched with awe. Emma sat in the front row, Max beside her, narrating loudly. See how good they are. That dog found the toy in 10 seconds. Max can do that too. Max is super fast. As the sun began to set, families filtered out. Emma sat on the gymnasium floor, surrounded by all 12 K-9s, in absolute heaven. Each dog took turns receiving her hugs and pets and declarations of their goodness. Sarah and Tom stood with Morrison, watching their daughter. "She has no fear," Sarah said softly. "After everything that happened, she has no fear of the dark, no fear of forests, no trauma at all. It's like Max didn't just save her life. He saved her from the fear too." Morrison nodded. "Dogs do that. They teach us resilience, loyalty, love without condition." He paused. "Emma's changed my life too, changed how I see this work. Every search now I think of her, I think of those 2 words." "Good dog," Tom said, smiling. "Good dog," Morrison agreed. As the evening settled into night, Emma finally tired. Sarah carried her to the car, the little girl already half asleep. But her last words before drifting off were predictable. "Mommy, can Max come to my birthday party tomorrow?" "Of course, baby. Max will always be at your parties." "Good, because he's the best dog in the whole world, and I love him forever and ever." Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair, feeling the warmth of her body, warm, alive, safe. 2 words had changed everything that night in September. 2 words had sparked a movement. 2 words had created a foundation that would save countless lives. 2 words had bonded a family forever. Good dog. Some stories end. Others echo through time, ripples spreading outward, touching lives in ways impossible to measure. Emma's story wasn't just about a rescue. It was about the power of hope, the strength of the human-animal bond, and the reminder that heroes come in many forms, sometimes on 4 legs with brown eyes and a wagging tail. And somewhere in Oregon, a German shepherd named Max slept peacefully, dreaming of the tiny girl he'd found beneath a fallen log. The girl who'd whispered 2 words that meant everything. The girl who'd called him what he was. A very good dog indeed. The end.